Boz leaned forward and jabbed the cabbie on the shoulder. Here! The cabbie, his huge, broad shoulders barely encased in a sweatshirt and plaid vest, turned around and gave Boz a look that would have made a normal person sit back and be very quiet. But Boz was by no means a normal person. He was prettier than most, louder than most, funner than most, and God knew, dumber than most. We'd just come from a dance club where a knife fight had suddenly broken out. These two crazy girls had been pulling hair and screaming like fishwives, and then one of them had pulled out a knife. My gang had wanted to stay and watch. They loved stuff like that. But, you know, if you've seen one knife fight, you've seen them all. I'd dragged them all away, and we'd stumbled out into the night, luckily grabbing a cab before the cold made us sober up. "Here, right in the middle of the block, my good man," Boz said, earning himself a murderous look that made me feel grateful all over again for gun control in merry old England. "My good man?" Cicely snickered next to me. The six of us were packed into the back of this big black cab. There could have been more, but we'd found that 6 wasted immortals were all the back of a London cab could hold. And that was only if no one puked. "Yes, Jeeves," Cicely went on brightly. "Stop here." The cabbie slammed his foot on the brakes, and we all shot forward. Boz and Katie hit their heads on the glass partition between us and the driver. Stratton, Inocencio, and I all catapulted off our seats, landing in an ungraceful, giggling heap on the dirty cab floor. "Hey," Boz said, rubbing his forehead. Inocencio found me under the tangle of arms and legs. "You okay, Ness?" I nodded, still laughing. "Get the hell out of my cab," our driver spat. He lurched out of the front seat, came around, and yanked our door open. My back was against the door, and I immediately fell out into the gutter, hitting my head on the stone curb. "Ow! Ow!" The gutter was wet. It had been raining, of course. The pain, the cold, and the wet barely penetrated my consciousness. Knife fight aside, the evening of heavy festivities had wrapped me in a warm cocoon of hazy well-being. "Out!" the cabbie said again, grabbing my shoulders and hauling me out of the way. He dumped me on the sidewalk and reached in for Incy. "Okay, hello, anger and a trickle of consciousness." I frowned, rubbing my shoulders, sitting up. We were a block away from the dungeon, yet another horribly seedy underground bar where we hung out. And only this short block away, the street was dark and deserted. Empty lots alternating with burned-out crack houses, giving the street a missing tooth appearance. "All right, hands off," Inocencio said, landing on the sidewalk next to me. His face was cold with fury, and he looked more awake than I'd thought. "You lot," the cabbie snarled. "I don't want your kind in my cab. Rich kids, think you're better than everyone else." He leaned into the cab, grabbing Katie's coat collar while Boz scrambled out on his own. Gonna be sick," Katie said, half in, half out of the cab. Boz jumped out of the way just as Katie's system purged itself of an evening's worth of Jameson whiskey, right on the cabbie's shoes. "God damn it!" the cabbie roared, shaking his feet in disgust. Boz and I giggled. We couldn't help it. Mean Mr. Taxi Driver. The cabbie grabbed Katie's arms, intending to haul her to the sidewalk, and suddenly Incy muttered something and snapped his hand open. I had a split second to think, and then the cab driver staggered as if struck with an axe. Katie went slack in his hands, and he crumpled, his spine curving almost in half. He pitched backward, landing heavily on the sidewalk, his face white, eyes wide open. A wave of nausea and fatigue overcame me. Maybe I'd had more to drink than I thought. "Incy, what did you do?" I asked him, bemused as I got to my feet. "Did you use magic on him?" I gave a little laugh. The idea was kind of ridiculous. I leaned against the lamppost, holding my face up to the chilly mist. A few deep breaths and I felt better. Katie blinked blearily and Boz chuckled. Inocencio stood up, frowning at his new D&G boots now flecked with rain. Stratton and Cicely got out of the other side of the cab and joined us. They looked down at the cabbie lying frozen on the wet pavement and shook their heads. "Very nice," Stratton said to Incy. "Very impressive, Mr. Magician. You can let the poor sod up now." We were all looking at each other and at the cabbie. I couldn't remember the last time I'd seen anyone use magic like this.